Have you ever found yourself swept up in the whirlwind of love, only to later wonder if you were losing yourself along the way? It's a story many can relate to, a relationship that begins with passion and promises but slowly unravels into something far more painful. Imagine being deeply in love, giving everything to someone who once made you feel alive and valued, only to find yourself facing harsh criticism, emotional manipulation, and a gradual erosion of your self-worth. This video is not just a story, it's a mirror reflecting the hidden dynamics of love, self-respect, and the courage it takes to walk away when a relationship becomes toxic. By the end, you'll gain profound insights into the subtle red flags that often go unnoticed at the beginning of a relationship, the damaging power of emotional manipulation, and why self-love must come first. The transformative journey of reclaiming one's dignity after years of humiliation. Why mutual respect is the foundation of true love, and how to recognize when it's absent. How age and experience can become your greatest assets in rebuilding a life filled with purpose, peace, and self-respect. Stay with us as we unpack the lessons from one man's heartbreaking yet empowering journey. His story is not just a cautionary tale. It's a roadmap for anyone seeking to protect their self-worth while pursuing love. Whether you've been in a similar situation or want to better understand the complexities of human relationships, this video will leave you with invaluable wisdom and practical takeaways for your own life. This isn't just about his story, it's about your story, your relationships, and your journey towards self-love and respect. Watch until the end. The lessons might just change how you view yourself and the love you deserve. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy the content, please comment 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave a 0. Your feedback is crucial as it helps me create better videos that align with your interests. Now, let's get started. At first, everything seemed nothing short of magical, almost like a dream come true. She captivated him effortlessly, weaving a web of sweet words, affectionate gestures, and endless compliments that made him feel alive in ways he hadn't in decades. For the first time in years, he felt strong and virile, as though the fading embers of his youth had been reignited by her radiant presence. She knew exactly how to appeal to him, her every glance like a magnet pulling at his heart, her every touch a promise of something deeper. He found himself willingly succumbing to her charm, unable to resist the spell she cast. He devoted himself entirely to pleasing her, lavishing her with gifts, attention, and care. She became his queen, and he her most loyal subject. But beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic connection, shadows began to creep in, subtle, almost imperceptible at first. She started imposing small demands, veiling them in smiles and an air of playful superiority that he mistook for mere charm. These little requests seemed harmless, even endearing, as though they were part of the natural rhythm of a relationship. Yet, over time, their weight grew heavier, and her tone, once sweet and beguiling, began to carry a sharp edge that hinted at something darker. As the months went by, her behavior shifted dramatically. What once felt like playful banter took on a more sinister tone. Subtle comments, cloaked in the guise of jokes, started to chip away at his confidence. She began pointing out his age, teasing that he needed to take better care of himself, insinuating that men like him, men past their prime, shouldn't let themselves fall victim to physical limitations. At first, he laughed along, brushing off the remarks as harmless teasing. But the laughter grew hollow as her words became more pointed, more frequent. Each cutting joke felt like a dagger, reminding him of a truth he had tried to ignore. He was older than her, and she seemed intent on making him feel it. The cracks widened further when their intimacy became the focus of her criticisms. He, a man who had always prided himself on his ability to love deeply and provide emotional satisfaction, was now confronted with brutal, unfiltered critiques of his physical performance. She compared him to younger men, claiming he was slow, predictable, incapable of fulfilling her desires. Her words struck like thunderbolts, shaking the foundation of his self-worth. He tried to reason with her, to explain that age didn't diminish his ability to love, to bring joy and comfort. But she dismissed his words with cruel laughter, as though his pleas were the desperate ramblings of a man clinging to relevance. In an effort to salvage their bond, he tried to show her another side of himself, his ability to please her in ways that transcended mere physicality. With earnest sincerity, he expressed his confidence in his unique approach to intimacy, explaining how his experience allowed him to offer her something deeply fulfilling through oral affection. He laid himself bare, offering his vulnerability as proof of his devotion. Yet instead of gratitude or understanding, he was met with mockery. She ridiculed his attempts, reducing them to the pitiful efforts of an old man grasping at straws. Her laughter echoed in his mind, each sound carving deeper wounds into his spirit. Despite the humiliation, he convinced himself that this was a test, a trial of his patience, resilience, and love. He clung to the hope that, in time, she would see the depth of his devotion and recognize his worth. But every word she uttered, every dismissive gesture, pushed him further into a chasm of devaluation. Slowly, he began to see himself through her eyes, not as a man of wisdom and experience, but as someone unworthy of her affection, a relic of a past she did not cherish. For those observing from the outside, his choice to stay might seem incomprehensible, even foolish. But love, even in its most painful and toxic forms, has a way of binding us. It blinds us to reality, filling our hearts with illusions that we can change the unchangeable, that our sacrifices will one day be rewarded. He wasn't just in love with her youth and beauty, he was ensnared by the belief that he could prove his value to someone who refused to see it. One fateful evening, after yet another argument in which she left him feeling smaller than ever, he reached his breaking point. He stood before the mirror, staring at his reflection, a 70-year-old man with lines etched deep into his face, each one a testament to a life filled with trials and triumphs. In his eyes, he saw the weight of experience and the remnants of a fire that once burned brightly. He realized that he could no longer live in the shadow of someone else's approval. The chains of her mockery, once so tight, now felt brittle against the growing strength of his resolve. He made a decision, one born not out of anger or spite, but out of a newfound sense of self-respect. He would confront her, not with bitterness, but with serenity. He would reclaim the dignity she had stripped from him and remind himself that love, true love, could never thrive in the soil of humiliation. For the first time in a long while, he chose himself. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. He began softly, his voice steady yet resolute. He explained that although his love for her was genuine and deep, he could no longer bear the constant humiliation. His words carried the weight of months of pain, unspoken frustration, and the yearning for a sense of self that had been eroded over time. She stared at him in disbelief, her face a mix of shock and something else, perhaps a flicker of regret. It was as if she had never anticipated that the man she had come to belittle could summon the courage to walk away. In that moment, as her expression faltered, he felt a surge of dignity, an echo of the man he once was, a man who had allowed himself to love but refused to be diminished. The conversation was not easy. It was raw, filled with unspoken truths finally brought to light. Every word felt like a wound being reopened, but with each confession, he felt a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he was choosing himself, not out of selfishness, but out of the wisdom that comes with age and experience. He wasn't acting out of weakness or spite. He was reclaiming his strength, his identity, and his worth. As he stepped outside and began walking away from her home, a wave of relief washed over him, cleansing months of suppressed pain. The air seemed fresher, the world lighter, as if the burden of her criticisms had been lifted from his shoulders. For too long, he had allowed himself to shrink under her gaze, striving to meet standards that were never meant to validate him. He now understood that some people, no matter how much they are loved, will never see beyond the surface. And that was not his failure, it was theirs. By enduring her humiliations, he had lost sight of who he was. But in choosing to leave, he reclaimed not only his self-respect but also the quiet, steadfast serenity that comes from self-love. It was not an easy victory. The days that followed were filled with moments of loneliness that gnawed at him. The silence of his home, once shared with her laughter and presence, now felt achingly vast. Yet, this loneliness was different. It was clean, untainted by the need to prove himself to someone who refused to see his worth. He realized that even in solitude, he remained a man of value, a man whose love, though rejected, had been pure and profound. As the weeks turned into months, he found himself rediscovering pieces of his life that had been overshadowed by his relationship. He reconnected with old friends, their shared laughter a balm to his soul. He embarked on journeys to places he had always dreamed of seeing but had put off in his pursuit of love. He immersed himself in hobbies that once brought him joy, dusting off canvases and paints that had long been forgotten. Each activity became a reminder that his worth was never tied to the validation of someone else, least of all someone who could not see beyond his age. He began to see his reflection differently. The lines on his face were no longer marks of decline but stories etched by time, each wrinkle a testament to his resilience. The silver in his hair no longer felt like a reminder of what he had lost but a crown of memories, of experiences that shaped him into the man he had become. He accepted his age not as a limitation but as a source of wisdom, a guide that taught him what truly mattered in life. For those who find themselves in similar situations, questioning their worth or sacrificing their dignity in pursuit of fleeting affection, his story serves as a poignant reminder. The pursuit of love is a noble journey, but it should never come at the cost of one's inner peace and self-worth. Love, in its truest form, embraces, respects, and values without conditions. It sees past physical limitations, age, or appearances, and instead cherishes the essence of the soul. He came to understand that while the allure of youth may dazzle, it is the quiet strength of dignity that sustains. And in the wisdom of his years, he learned this truth. The greatest love story of all is the one you have with yourself. Looking back on the relationship, he found himself reflecting on it not with anger or regret, but with a sense of profound understanding. What had initially felt like a series of painful experiences now revealed themselves as invaluable lessons. Lessons in self-respect, boundaries, and the unwavering importance of upholding one's values, no matter how strong the temptation to compromise them. He saw clearly now that her criticism, though cruel and undeserved, had served a purpose. It had forced him to confront the parts of himself he had neglected, his sense of worth, his dignity, and his belief in his own inherent value. These realizations did not come easily. They were born of deep introspection and the courage to face his vulnerabilities head-on. The relationship had been a mirror, reflecting back to him both his strengths and his weaknesses. It showed him the lengths to which he would go to be loved, and the dangers of tying his happiness to the approval of another. He realized now that true love, whether from another person or from oneself, does not demand such sacrifices. It does not ask us to diminish ourselves, to question our worth, or to endure humiliation in silence. Instead, it celebrates us for who we are, flaws and all, and encourages us to grow in confidence and self-assurance. Leaving the relationship was not just an act of walking away from someone who could not appreciate him. It was an act of reclaiming himself. It was a powerful statement that he would no longer allow anyone, no matter how captivating or charming, to make him feel small or unworthy. It was a moment of profound clarity and courage, a turning point that marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one rooted in self-respect and the belief that he deserved better. For many who hear his story, it may serve as an eye-opener, a poignant example of how essential self-love is, even when everything around us seems to conspire against our confidence. It is easy to judge others from the outside, to think that we would never allow ourselves to endure such treatment. But life is rarely so simple. Love, even when tainted by pain, has a way of clouding our judgment, making us cling to the hope that things will improve. His story is a reminder that we must never lose sight of our own worth, no matter how strong the pull of love or the fear of loneliness. This story carries a message that resonates most deeply with those who have lived long enough to understand the intricacies of human relationships and the irreplaceable nature of dignity. It speaks directly to seniors, who, through years of experience, know that time has a way of revealing what truly matters. It is only with the wisdom gained through life's trials that we come to see how vital it is to protect our self-respect and integrity, even when faced with the fleeting promises of youth or the allure of validation from others. As he reflected on the lessons he had learned, he came to understand that a man's worth is not measured by his age, his physical abilities, or the approval of others. Instead, it is measured by the strength of his character, the integrity with which he faces life's adversities, and the wisdom he gains along the way. Integrity, he realized, was the compass that guided him through life's challenges. It was what allowed him to stand tall, even in the face of humiliation, and what ultimately helped him rediscover his sense of self. The relationship had left its mark on him, but not in the way she might have intended. Every wrinkle on his face, every gray hair on his head, became a symbol of his resilience, a reminder of the battles he had fought and the wisdom he had earned. He no longer saw these signs of aging as weaknesses or flaws. Instead, he saw them as trophies of a life well lived, of lessons learned and victories hard won. The days that followed his decision to leave were not without difficulty. Loneliness returned, creeping in like an old, familiar companion. But this loneliness was different from the kind he had felt while in the relationship. It was a dignified loneliness, free from the weight of trying to prove his worth to someone who refused to see it. It was a loneliness that allowed him to reflect, to heal, and to rediscover the parts of himself that had been buried under the weight of her criticisms. In time, he began to find joy again. He reconnected with old friends, their laughter and shared memories a balm for his soul. He traveled to places he had always dreamed of visiting, immersing himself in the beauty and wonder of the world around him. He took up hobbies he had long abandoned, finding solace and satisfaction in the simple act of creating. Each of these moments became a reminder that his worth was not tied to the approval of a younger woman or anyone else. It was tied to the peace and contentment he found within himself. His story serves as a powerful reminder for those of advanced age who may be struggling with similar doubts. It teaches us that the pursuit of love is a noble endeavor, but it should never come at the cost of our dignity or inner peace. True love, whether it is with another person or within ourselves, is one that uplifts, respects, and values us for who we are. It does not demand that we change to fit someone else's expectations, or that we endure pain to prove our worth. If you are still watching this video, and find these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. For those who have lived long enough to understand the nuances of life and love, his story resonates deeply. It reminds us that dignity is priceless, and that the wisdom gained with age is a gift. Aging is not a loss, it is a deepening of character, a chance to live with authenticity and pride. His journey teaches us that self-love is the foundation upon which all other love is built, and that no relationship, no matter how enticing, is worth sacrificing that foundation. Lesson 1. Stay grounded in reality. No matter how enchanting it may feel to relive the glow of youth alongside someone much younger, it is crucial to keep your feet firmly planted in reality. The allure of being admired by someone who brings a sense of vibrancy can cloud judgment, making it easy to overlook red flags that point to deeper incompatibilities. Like the character in this story, many people invest their time, energy, and emotions into relationships that ultimately drain them because the other person does not genuinely value who they are at their core. The temptation to prove vigor, strength, or relevance in such relationships often becomes a dangerous trap. This desire to measure up, to demonstrate that age has not diminished worth, can lead to accepting behaviors and humiliations that, under different circumstances, would have been intolerable. We find ourselves bending and compromising, hoping for validation that may never come, only to realize too late that the effort was misplaced. Love should not feel like an endless test, a proving ground where one must continually demonstrate their worth or meet impossible standards. True love is a sanctuary, a space built on mutual respect, admiration, and acceptance. It acknowledges each person's individuality, celebrating their unique qualities rather than diminishing them. Staying grounded means recognizing that no relationship, no matter how exciting or flattering it may seem, is worth sacrificing your dignity. It means understanding that the foundation of a healthy connection is not based on the need to prove anything, but on the shared ability to uplift, respect, and cherish one another. In doing so, you protect not only your heart but also the self-respect that will guide you toward relationships that truly honor who you are. Lesson 2. Prioritize self-love. This story serves as a poignant reminder of the unshakable importance of loving oneself first and foremost. For the man, enduring cruel remarks about his age, abilities, and worth was not just a painful experience. It was a surrender of a vital part of himself. In his quest to maintain the relationship and please someone who ultimately could not see his true value, he mistakenly believed that enduring such treatment was a noble sacrifice for love. But instead of bringing them closer, it chipped away at his dignity and left him feeling diminished. Loving yourself is not an act of selfishness. It is an essential commitment that must come before any relationship. Without it, we risk tying our self-worth to another person's approval, leaving us vulnerable to their disregard, criticisms, and lack of appreciation. When we fail to value ourselves, we inadvertently signal to others that it's acceptable to devalue us, creating a cycle of imbalance and emotional harm. Self-love is the foundation of every healthy relationship. It allows us to set boundaries, recognize when we are being mistreated, and walk away when our dignity is at stake. It empowers us to seek connections that nurture, rather than harm, our sense of self. By loving ourselves, we affirm that we are worthy of respect, affection, and care, not because of our age, physical attributes, or what we can offer, but simply because of who we are. This story illustrates that self-love is not just a personal necessity but a form of armor against relationships that fail to honor our worth. It reminds us that no love is worth sacrificing our inner peace and dignity. When we truly love ourselves, we build the strength to demand the respect we deserve and to cultivate relationships where love and mutual appreciation can thrive. Lesson 3. Have the courage to say enough. Choosing to leave a relationship is never easy, especially when emotions and history are deeply intertwined. But there comes a time when saying enough becomes not just a decision, but an act of profound courage and self-respect. For the man in this story, walking away was not merely a separation from another person. It was a powerful reclamation of himself, his dignity, and his peace of mind. It was a choice to prioritize his well-being over the persistent erosion of his self-worth. By choosing solitude over continued humiliation, he demonstrated remarkable bravery. It takes immense strength to confront the fear of loneliness, especially in later stages of life, when companionship often feels like a lifeline. Yet, he realized that staying in a situation where his value was constantly undermined would cost him far more than the discomfort of being alone. Loneliness, he discovered, could be a sanctuary, a space to rebuild self-esteem, heal emotional wounds, and rediscover his identity outside the confines of someone else's judgment. Walking away is not an admission of defeat, it is a declaration of self-worth. It is an acknowledgement that peace of mind and self-respect are non-negotiable, and that no relationship is worth sacrificing these essential aspects of one's soul. By leaving, he opened the door to new possibilities, a chance to restore his inner balance and live authentically, free from the shadow of someone who could not see his true value. This lesson reminds us that the courage to say enough is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It is a testament to the strength of character required to break free from toxic patterns and reclaim control over our lives. By doing so, we grant ourselves the opportunity to heal, grow, and embrace the dignity and peace that no one else can provide but ourselves. Lesson 4. Treasure the wisdom of experience. As the years pass, our experiences and memories accumulate into a wealth of wisdom, an irreplaceable treasure that grows richer with time. In advanced age, this wisdom becomes a source of strength and clarity, offering a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. For the man in this story, his journey revealed that his worth was not tied to the fleeting allure of youth, but to the profound lessons etched into every wrinkle, every gray hair, and every mark left by time. He came to see that striving to conform to an ideal of perpetual youth was not only unrealistic but unnecessary. What he possessed was far more valuable, a lifetime of experiences that had shaped him, deepened his character, and prepared him to navigate life with resilience and grace. The superficial standards of youth pale in comparison to the richness of a life lived fully and authentically. Those who chase after these shallow ideals, failing to see beyond the surface, miss the profound beauty of wisdom earned through trials, triumphs, and years of self-discovery. This understanding liberated him from the need to seek validation from someone who could not appreciate the essence of who he was. He recognized that his value was not dependent on external approval, but rooted in the depth of his life's journey and the lessons he had learned along the way. The wisdom of experience gave him the confidence to embrace himself fully and reject the superficial judgments of those who could not see his true worth. For anyone struggling with the pressure to meet unrealistic expectations, this lesson is a powerful reminder. The scars of time are not flaws to be hidden, but stories to be celebrated. Each wrinkle tells of resilience, each gray hair speaks of perseverance, and every mark of age is a badge of honor, representing the battles fought and lessons learned. Rather than striving to please those who only value appearances, we should cherish the unique beauty of our experiences and the wisdom they bring. True fulfillment lies not in chasing youth, but in embracing the profound insights that come with age. It is through this acceptance that we find the peace, dignity, and self-respect that no superficial standard can ever provide. Lesson 5. Respect should be mutual. In any relationship, respect forms the bedrock of genuine connection and intimacy. For the man in this story, his journey highlighted the painful realization that respect cannot flow one way. It must be mutual, nurtured by both partners. Despite the inevitable changes that come with age, he believed wholeheartedly that he still had much to offer. He expressed his affection and desire in ways that were deeply meaningful to him, finding creative and thoughtful ways to demonstrate his love. From acts of care to gestures of generosity, and even through intimate expressions like oral affection, he gave his best, believing that love was about adapting, understanding, and giving wholly of oneself. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Yet, these heartfelt acts of devotion should never become obligations or sources of humiliation. His love was pure, but he learned the hard way that love alone cannot sustain a relationship in the absence of respect and mutual appreciation. True intimacy cannot flourish in an environment of criticism, judgment, or imbalance. It requires a foundation where both partners honor each other's contributions and express gratitude for the ways they uplift and support one another. His efforts, though genuine, were met not with appreciation but with dismissal and ridicule, a heartbreaking betrayal of the vulnerability he had shared. This painful experience taught him that while giving your best in a relationship is admirable, it must be met with reciprocity. Respect is not a luxury, it is a necessity, and without it, even the deepest love can become a source of pain. From this, he came to understand a profound truth. No one should have to prove their worth or endure humiliation to earn love. The care and generosity he offered deserved to be met with value and gratitude, not taken for granted or belittled. A loving relationship is not a competition to see who can sacrifice more or tolerate less. It is a partnership where both individuals feel seen, heard, and respected. His story reminds us that true intimacy is not defined by grand gestures or physical prowess, but by the respect and kindness that permeate every interaction. Mutual appreciation is what transforms simple acts of love into profound expressions of connection. To give love is a beautiful thing, but to receive it in kind, infused with respect and gratitude, is what makes a relationship truly fulfilling. In learning this, he reclaimed his dignity and set a standard for the kind of love he deserved, one rooted in mutual respect and shared value. As we close this journey of reflection and self-discovery, let's take a moment to think about what this story has taught us. What stood out to you the most? Was it the subtle red flags in relationships, the importance of self-love, or the courage to say enough and walk away from toxicity? Now, we'd love to hear from you. What is one thing you've learned from this video that you will bring into practice in your own life? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. We can't wait to read them. Your insights might just inspire someone else on their journey. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content that empowers and inspires. Thank you for watching, and remember, self-love and respect are the cornerstones of a fulfilling life. See you in the next video.